Jesus walked among us, teaching us how to live. He spoke with authority, yet with such love and compassion. One of his most famous teachings is the Sermon on the Mount. In it, he begins with the Beatitudes, a beautiful description of those who are blessed in God's eyes. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," Jesus said. This doesn't mean we should strive for poverty. It means we should be humble, recognizing our need for God. We are to come to him with open hands and hearts ready to receive his grace. Jesus continued, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Life brings sorrow and pain. When we mourn, we acknowledge our need for comfort, and God promises to provide it. He is close to the brokenhearted and offers solace in times of grief. The Beatitudes paint a picture of the kind of heart God desires. It is a heart that is humble, compassionate, and pure. It is a heart that seeks after righteousness and is willing to stand up for what is right, even when it's hard." Jesus called his followers to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. These powerful metaphors illustrate the impact Christians are meant to have on the world. Salt is a preservative. It prevents decay and adds flavor. As Christians, we are called to preserve the goodness of God's creation. We are to stand against injustice, fight for the oppressed, and share the love of Christ with a world in desperate need. Light dispels darkness. It guides our way and reveals what is hidden. We are called to be like lights, shining brightly in a dark world. We do this by living out our faith with authenticity, sharing the hope we have in Christ, and reflecting his love in all we do. Just as a small amount of salt can flavor a whole pot of food, and a single candle can illuminate a dark room, so too can we make a difference in the world. We may not feel like we have much to offer, but our lives can have a profound impact when we allow God to work through us. Some people thought Jesus came to abolish the law and the prophets. But Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." He came to reveal their true meaning and show us a higher way of living. The Pharisees, religious leaders of the time, focused on the outward observance of the law. But Jesus emphasized the heart behind the law. He said it wasn't enough to simply refrain from murder. We must also root out anger and hatred from our hearts. It wasn't enough to avoid adultery. We must also guard our thoughts and actions, treating others with purity and respect. Jesus' teachings challenged the status quo. He raised the bar, calling us to a higher standard of morality. He didn't come to make life easier. He came to make us better. He came to transform us from the inside out, making us more like him. Perhaps the most radical teaching of Jesus is his command to love our enemies. You have heard that it was said, "Love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, he taught. This is not a natural human response. Our instinct is to retaliate when we are wronged, to seek revenge for injustices committed against us. But Jesus calls us to a different way, a way of love and forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't excuse the actions of others. It doesn't condone wrongdoing, but it does free us from the bitterness and resentment that can poison our hearts. When we forgive, we release the offender into God's hands and allow him to be the judge.